We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Align, and it is the podcast for chiropractors where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We have another very exciting episode of Wake Up Align for you. Our purpose, our mission, we are here to motivate, inspire, and empower you as a chiropractor to deliver your love and service to your community. I am joined by my very good friend here, Tom Owen. Tom, are you doing well today?
I am doing very well. Thank you for asking, and I'm excited to be here.
Heard you recently went out and swung the golf club. Is that right?
Well, it happens from time to time down here in Florida.
Nice.
So yes.
How'd you do? What would you shoot?
Well, let's say this. I didn't play all that well, but I bet like a genius. That's what Dr. Roy Sweat taught me a long time ago. He says, not how you play, it's how you bet.
Nice. A little Roy Sweat impersonation there. I like that. How about that? Good job. So dinner's on you tonight, is what you're saying.
Well, it depends on your the level of food you're looking for. If you're looking for Ruth Chris Steakhouse, I don't think I was that victorious. But no, I've been swinging some sticks here lately.
Awesome. Listen, there's a subject that seems like chiropractors just cannot get away from, and I don't think it's a subject that they really enjoy. It's a subject that's out of necessity, and that topic is marketing. And just about everything I've learned about marketing has come from you, and the concepts of marketing that you've shared in your very long career. I won't give the years, so don't want you to feel old over there. And it's funny because I recently had a conversation where some marketing that was really hot 20 years ago is now starting to come back in vogue again. And we see that too. We see that dynamic where things cycle in and out of favor. And it's just so funny when somebody says, oh, this new thing, this is really tearing it up. And you realize, yeah, that was hot 20 years ago. And it'd be hot in another 20 years. It'd just keep showing back up again.
Yeah, it's funny that you're old enough to know that kind of stuff does cycle through. Mm-hmm. And then the person that's saying, oh man, this new thing, they're younger generation and they don't have that experience. But yeah, mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Marketing is an art, not a science. And I know you've heard me share that over the years, but people much smarter than me taught me that a long time ago. I was personal friends. My father and I were personal friends with Dan Kennedy. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he was nationally known marketing guru, if you want to call it that. And there are certain, even though it's an art and it's not a science, an art means it's going to constantly evolve. It's going to change. You don't ever set yourself up. Don't ever set your business up to where it's dependent on one source of marketing, because I'll assure you over time that marketing is going to shift. It's going to change. You have to be able to adapt. But what is very prevalent in the world of marketing is learning the principles. And the principles of marketing stand the test of time, but definitely marketing's more of an art and it's not a science.
Yeah, I think the first day I've ever heard you talk about marketing 20-something years ago, you started with that very same phrase, and it's just as true, probably more true today than it was back then. I know that you talk to doctors who have all their marketing eggs tied up in social media and the digital and these algorithms and the parameters, the way people find you are changing, constantly changing every 4 to 6 weeks. So, you might have something that's really cooking, and then 6 weeks later, it's a ghost town, and it's really driving people crazy out there.
Especially right now, Dr. Shannon, because I think what you're kind of leading to is, there's a lot of these specialty modalities, specialty functional therapy programs out there Well, the old days of when you could try a piece, a bit of marketing, does that work, and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg.
Right.
That was just that expense for that marketing was just tied to the marketing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got a lot of pressure being put on the chiropractor, because not only do you have the expense of the marketing, but that marketing is now tied to that piece of capital equipment
Right.
that has to produce.
Right.
Otherwise, that, they think they're buying and I'm not, it has nothing to do with the type of therapy, but let's say a decompression table or a laser or something, and they've spent, 50 grand on it. Well, and they say, well, I bought an asset. Well, an asset is only an asset if it actually puts money in your pocket. When it starts taking money out of your pocket, it becomes a liability. And that's what happens many, many times, is because they buy the equipment with the promise of marketing tied to it. And then if that marketing works for a while, which you and I can certainly talk on that, I think throw the mic to you and let you talk on that for a bit. But that marketing, even if it's working on the front end, tends to shift, tends to dry up. It's season. It's not what's not seasonal. What's the word I'm looking for? It's got a lifetime, a lifespan. Whether it's a year or 2 years, there tends to be a market saturation with that. And especially if the practitioner doesn't know how to convert the business it does produce. Here's one thing: you can get 10, 20 new patients through the door, but if you don't know how to systematically convert them, well, then now you're, blessed are those that go in circles, for they will be called wheels. Don't confuse motion with progress. So now you're busy but broke.
Mm-hmm.
So you burn yourself out processing all these new patients. You don't even have a processes or system to convert them. But we're talking about marketing right now, and I think a big piece of the puzzle that's changed over the 20 years. Yes, it's still an art. It's not a science. Yes, it's still got shifting sands to it, components. But now there's more at risk, right? I mean, back when you came on board and when you and I first started working together, I mean, what was your monthly overhead, Dr. Shannon, when we first opened?
It was less than $6,000 a month.
Yeah.
And that included my staff payroll.
Yeah, we could get a practitioner open and for $20K or less, easy, right? That was everything, and that was including all your lease payments and all your rent and all that. Well, now you've got doctors that are spending $3,000 to $4,000 on social media marketing by itself for the functional component, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, let me go ahead and tell the audience something real quick. You're getting scammed if you think that you can do geo-target marketing $4,000 to $5,000 on one small market or region. There's not enough. You can't have enough spend to do that. But anyway, that's another subject for another time. But anyway, the difference was there you didn't have as much pressure.
That's right.
So you could try an ad, or you could try radio, or you could try. We still had our components, right? We knew how much we were willing to spend for a patient return. I mean, you're in a business. Doctors, listen to me. You're in a business. You just can't go out and spend wildly. There has to be a standard set that says, okay, for 10 new patients, 10 new patients means 10 opportunities, right? You have to stop judging the marketing itself once they cross the threshold of your practice. Right. Some people don't like spinal screenings. They go, oh, they don't stick. Well, that has something to do with the system within the office. You can't judge how they got there. Once they cross that threshold, everyone, has their own issues. But I'll wrap my segment up right here on this, is that the pressure that's on these doctors now, because they're spending the $4,000 to $5,000 and they can't try it like you used to be able to. You could do community talks, right? You could do radio. You could do TV. Remember how we used to do
infomercials? Yeah,
the infomercials, and you could do remember how we would run those on the off times, and we would buy up that cheap time on the by the way, in certain markets, wow, that's another. When are we going to go down? How many roads do you want to go down today? Because that's another thing. Marketing is always, that's that art part of it. What works in one market with all the components that make up that market, what works there may or may not work over here in the, industrial or over here on the white collar side of town, the high end income or the low income, or it's rural. All of that plays into what marketing will work where. But what's different now is where you used to be able to test all kinds of things without a lot of risk, even though we still had our standards and our parameters we were going to go by. Nowadays, they've got $50,000 or $100,000 in some. I just talked to somebody that you and I know very well. I'm not going to name names on this show, but I had a call with them within the last 2 weeks. And anyway, long story short, he just dropped $250,000. $250,000 on 3 pieces of equipment and the promise of the marketing that would come with it. And, me, I just cringe, right? Because I'm like, well, where's the proof? Where's the longevity? I mean, I had all kinds of questions, but I didn't want to, rain on his parade. But do you think there's a little bit of pressure there? Mm-hmm. You got to you got to return $250,000. And that's not including the cost of the marketing for the next 2 years.
And the other overhead already associated with your office. That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So do you know what it takes just to get there? I'm not saying it's not going to work out.
I understand, yeah.
But you better have all your cookies in the basket, right? You better have it all working and in sync. You better have your system. You better have your team ready. You better have the right marketing, right? You have better have your stuff together, or that's going to be an expensive lesson.
Well, let's start with this, because you have hit so many concepts and ideas and like foundation stones already. I want to have some time to really go back and unpack these a little bit. The first is, you said marketing is an art, not a science. I said that was the first phrase that I'd ever heard about marketing, because I was fresh out of chiropractic school. I didn't know anything about marketing. And then you walked us through what makes it an art. Why isn't it a science? You've touched on a couple of those things now with like different types of practitioners, different types of markets. Take the listeners through. They don't know what you know. Take them through what makes marketing an art. Why is it that way? Why isn't it a science? What are those factors that are creating that artistic approach where you got to find the right thing for you in your market, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, trying to get the listener to where they can identify, well, what's going to work in my market. There does have to be a component of trial and error or testing. But the key is to play by as many principles or rules that work over time. Because I can't sit here and tell you that, social media or screening or maybe direct mail. See, direct mail, there's a great one, right? For the young listeners out there. You'd say, direct mail? Who does direct mail? Well, let me just tell you, I come home every night. I still go to my mailbox and I still have to sift through 12 to 15 pieces of direct mail. Look, these are companies that know what they're doing, and there is a coordinated effort to get that out. There is a return. There is a market. There's going to be a segment of the marketing. Marketing is nothing more than getting the right message to the right person at the right time, answering the right need. All right. I can almost repeat that again. Marketing is getting the right message to the right person at the right time, answering the right need. What I mean by that is you can do all the social media marketing as you want, but there's certain people out there that are not going to respond. Their psychological makeup, they do not respond to that. They don't trust it. They don't know you, especially in the professional realm. A lot of people won't pick their doctor, right? They won't pick their doctor off of something that they don't trust in the first place. They don't even trust the vehicle. But then there's people that'll sit here, and you know as well as I do, you've coached them, right? They'll say, well, I'm never going down to Home Depot, or I'm never going to that home and garden show, and I'm going to do a spinal screening. I'm above that. Well, that's fine. Okay, that's perfectly fine. If you're going to shut that road down, that source, because that's the way I build businesses. My business model has always been, I am going to open up as many roads as possible that could possibly lead somebody to walking across my threshold, right? Am I going to count on 100% screenings? No, but I'm not going to shut that down, because here's the thing. That person that will not respond to social media, they may respond to meeting that doctor, getting a first impression of that doctor. And it just so happened, you know what? They go to that Home Depot, they're a contractor for that matter. They go to that Home Depot 6-7 times a week. And they've seen you there, right? But that's where the right person at the right time with the right message to answer the right need. They might not think they need you. So that's why marketing is an art, not a science. That's why you have to have a repetitive message. That's why you go, well, I've run that ad. I've done that. It didn't get me anything. All right. Again, back to your marketing budget, back to getting your color wheel of marketing that has to, there's market saturation and there's direct response marketing. So what kind of marketing are we doing? There's another, there's a whole nother episode. What's the difference between market saturation and direct response marketing? But that's why you have to have the repetitive message in any community. Like I mentioned Dan Kennedy earlier, that was Dan Kennedy's thing. He says, you have to, first and foremost, you have to imprint that person at least 7 times. All right. Before the average person is going to respond to anything. So the odds of them saying, well, I just wandered into your office today. Odds are probably not. Your
dad actually had a rule of thumb that he tested years ago, which was it takes the average person 2 years to decide to make up their mind to go see a chiropractor.
Now that's chiropractic. That's correct.
Yeah.
But what Dan Kennedy was talking about, he wasn't talking about just chiropractic.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about the pizzeria.
Right.
Marketing. You were asking me about marketing. You're absolutely right, though. See what I was saying about I had patients that absolutely told me, I will never respond to, I will never go see a doctor that's not on TV. And I just looked at her. I remember when she said that to me, what's that got to do with anything? But being on TV in her mind gave that person authority, but she wasn't going to respond to a direct mail piece. See what I mean? That's why I say marketing is an art. That's why you've got to have a strategy. You cannot build a business long-term on one source. And that's why I get so freaked out when I hear about people that are bought $250,000 with equipment. And I'm like, well, what's your strategy? What's your plan with that? Oh, they provide the marketing. Okay. What kind of marketing? What is it? Oh, it's online social media. So they're not going to teach you how to do community awareness programs. They're not going to teach you how to do internal promotions. That's all marketing. So I swear we could do 2 or 3 episodes on marketing but you asked me originally, what makes it an art? I'll tell you what makes it an art. You're dealing with the human psyche makeup. People's emotions change. Their needs change. Their You make emotional responses to what you want all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often, Dr. Shannon, do you buy what you want, but you think over and over about what you want to buy when you need it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People want to buy. They want to buy what they want. What I hear a preacher say this week, they said, you can get what you want, but you might not want what you get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I can go on and on about this, but
that town square concept was another thing that you introduced to me and thousands of other people, and really makes you look at a marketing like an overview, a top down, a big picture all the way down to ground level. So for those of you who are listening and you don't know what this town square is, let's build that model for you. Okay. So if you've ever lived in a small town, small southern town, go ahead.
Okay. You want me to do that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. It's a quick way for us on a recording. You're listening to this on a podcast, probably Spotify or iTunes, something like that. Here's what you can do. You want to learn this lesson as quick as possible? Take a blank piece of paper right now, get a pen out and draw a 1 inch by 1 inch square in the middle of that page. And now, like lines of sunshine, like rays of sunshine, just draw a bunch of lines in different directions, as many as you can. All right. Now, once you have that done, you've got maybe 30, 40. Now start naming what that is. If you want to know what that is, that's the old town square. Like if you go to the Midwest, rural Midwest, or you go to rural Southeast, everybody knows what I'm talking about. You go to the small towns, old days, when that county was first established. If you ever hear of what's called the county seat,
mm-hmm.
The county seat is where does all the judicial processes take place for that entire county. There'll be a town inside that county that's the county seat. And guess what's in the center of that town square? The courthouse, right? And when that town was built way back before Google Maps,
mm-hmm.
they were designing that to where all roads in the county eventually led to town square. So at first you had 6, 7, 8, 10 major thoroughfares that led you there. But then further you got out, you zoomed out. Now all of a sudden you got all these crossroads, and you got the spiderweb effect that everybody in the county could find their ways to those main thoroughfares, find their ways into the courthouse. Okay. So that's the town square concept through audio, audio recording, that you can do the exercise. Now, you've drawn the 1 inch by 1 inch square, and you've drawn a bunch of lines in different directions. Now start naming those. Those are streets, and go ahead and write inside the square, write the McMurtry Clinic of Chiropractic,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Tri-State Clinic of Chiropractic, whatever the name of the practice is. That's what's inside that block. Now, our idea is to name the streets that lead to the McMurtry Clinic. Now, I challenge the listeners to pause this recording right now. We'll do this exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to pause the recording, come back when you're done. Now, I want you to write down on all those lines, name me every way that you can possibly conceptually think right now that somebody could find their way to your practice. What's working? What streets are open right now? How would somebody walk down that street? Because that's how you build a self-sustaining, stress-free, referral-based practice, where you don't have to play the pain model, where you don't have to play the friendship practice, where you don't have to constantly spend your weekends, promoting. And how do you build a retention practice? Through the town square concept. My idea is I don't want a highway. I don't want an interstate, just like my friend that just spent the $250,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just bought himself an interstate. I hope it's not Route 66.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they don't reroute around it, right? And that's shifting sands in marketing all the time. There are not 100 sources for that marketing to draw from 100 different directions. It's like a highway,
right?
And there's an exit that gets off that, and that's a dangerous way to build a business. What I want is, if I was doing the McMurtry Clinic, I'd have one street that's named referrals.
Mm-hmm.
How about referrals? Well, if I had a system in place that guaranteed me 3 to 5% of my total patient visits, and I knew that statistically 3 to 5% of my total number of patient visits should result in the number of new patients or number of referrals a month, I can count on that, right, Shannon? We've talked about that on other episodes, where I should be able to count on that. If I have 300 patient visits this month, 3% of that, a minimum, I should be able to expect 9 direct referrals next month. That's the systematic approach. So one street's named referrals. One street might be named spinal screenings. One street might be named direct mail. We've talked about that. One might be obviously social media. I'm not against that. And you just start building it, word of mouth, the community talks, BNI, and if we could sit here and take up an episode and we could just name, well, the record that I'm aware of, if I remember, tell me if I'm wrong, because I know who this guy is, but wasn't it 278?
It was something astronomical. Like, you just can't even imagine there are that many ways to market your clinic to the community. Yeah.
And now 278 streets, let's say it was, right? The idea is not for those 278 streets for someone to walk down that street every month.
Right.
But what's the odds, if I was building a self-sustaining referral practice, how many new patients do I need at the PVAs that we're hitting inside of Aligned? We don't need to see 50 new patients, do we?
No.
We don't have to process all that. So what's the odds that somebody's going to walk down the street from a placemat at the local diner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that that's a great place to put your money to work. That's called market saturation. Earlier, we were talking about, oh gosh, man, we really can do some episodes on this, right? Because there's a marketing budget in your business that should be set every month based on your collections. All right. Now that can range from 5 to 10% of your total collections should be set aside for marketing. Well, you're not going to do, let's say you're doing $30,000 a month. You should be spending somewhere in the neighborhood, or set aside about $3,000 a month, a minimum, for marketing. Well, what if you're not spending that? That's where you get to the ability to start doing market saturation. That's where you get to do billboards. That's where you do park benches or bus benches. That's where you do the placemat at the local restaurants. That's where you put your sign up on the Little League, on the Little League fence, and you donate that money. You sponsor teams, things of that nature. Is that going to produce a direct response that month? The answer is no, probably not. But if you've got enough direct response happening over here where it's producing your 15, your 20, your 25, whatever you're needing, now you're owning the market. That's how you take ownership of your market, to where when top of mind awareness comes and the patient does finally need a chiropractor, who are they going to think of in your town? You're going to own that town. And it's going to be hard for anyone else to come in and compete against that. Now, that takes time when we're building practices, right, Dr. Shannon? It takes time to do that, but that's how you do it. The town square concept provides you the conceptual blueprint to create all these avenues. Now, I'm going to end it on this, all the way back to, it's up to the practitioner. If the practitioner says to me, I'm not willing to do spinal screenings, I'm not willing to go down to that Home Depot, I'm not going to sit there and hammer you over the head. I'm just going to say, all right, now get your pen back up, and I want you to go to the bottom of the street where that's named spinal screenings, and I want you to put an X at the base of that line where it connects to your town square, to your clinic, and put road closed. Don't worry. no one ever will come down that road because you've chosen to close it. And by the way, just because you don't know how to do spinal screenings effectively and productively and making them profitable and getting good quality patients from that avenue does not mean it's not conceptually possible, does it, Dr. Shannon?
Absolutely.
Because we know we've got that system down to an art, right? We've mastered that process. Anyway, I'm sorry I took the microphone and just went on that tangent, but marketing it's a big animal. It's a big undertaking. And the idea that it can be simplified down to, I'm going to hire this company and they're going to run digital marketing for me. And you're going to dominate the entire market that way. It's absolutely foolish.
Well, obviously, we're going to have another episode on this because we have just barely scratched the surface. When we come back for that next episode, what I want to do is start with those criteria of marketing. Like you already mentioned, you take a certain amount of your collections or a certain finite amount, and this is my marketing budget per month, and you be consistent with that. We haven't talked about how do you assess if getting the patient to the front door is within your budget or not, if it's working for you, right? There are a lot of things that we need to discuss and unpack. I want to add a couple of things to your art conversation. And these are the artistic points that have nothing to do with the marketing vehicle, the market, the type of platform you're using. It has to do with the art inside of that business owner's headspace. So I've had experience, you have too, where you've got one doctor who says, okay, yeah, I'll do a greeting card. Tell me what it is. Tell me about it. You already know from their attitude, well, we'll go through the details, but this is going to be, this is going to be a problem. And you got the other person on the other side that's like, yeah, tell me about that. I've never heard of that before. I need something. I'm hungry. Every single person on the planet, whether they've done the marketing event or not, knows the second person is going to get better results than the first. The art is also inside of that practitioner's head and their heart and their crummy or their great attitude with it, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing was this. I have seen it with doctor after doctor after doctor. They're working hard on marketing. They're out there doing things like surveys and BNI groups, and they're really, they don't have a lot of money, but they're going to make it up with effort. And they're out there just doing whatever they can, looking for any opportunity to talk to somebody about what they can do and what they bring to the market. And many times you'll hear from them, oh, I didn't get anybody this week. It's not working. I'm getting frustrated. Stay with it. Stay with it. And Tom, what happens with that person's new patient count over those next 90 days, right? They're not getting any quote unquote direct response from their efforts, but what do we always see on the new patient count? It begins to go up. And you can't say, well, those new patients are directly related to the work I've been doing, but there's something about that, right? When you put that attitude out there that I'm going after these chickens, I'm not going to be praying for a chicken to magically appear in my refrigerator, they show up, right? There's the art to it as well. So I see you scribbling over there. You want to add something?
Oh, I was just, there's so many different factors. We've got to come back and talk about what makes a market, what works in certain markets that doesn't work in others and things of that nature. But
so let's talk about that on the next episode. As a reminder to you listeners, that will be coming next week. We appreciate the opportunity to be with you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to empower you. We look forward to you joining us next week at the same time. God bless.
Follow our show. You can share it with friends, of course, and we'd love for you to contact us at mailbag@amcfamily.com. In addition, you're always invited to attend or join us at a summit. Of course, registration is required, and we would love for you to check out the loads of free content we provide to social media every single week. Until next time.